Good morning, everybody. This is Miss T. I hope you had a good evening. I hope you slept well and woke up this morning in good spirits, spent some time with the Lord, and that you're ready for your day. Today I wanted to talk about. I had went to an open panel on YouTube, and the discussion was black men dating white women. Do black women approve of this, or well, I guess it would be approve of this or not? The discussion mainly, the women were saying, black men who become successful usually pick white women over black women to be in a relationship with, and but then it got a little deeper than that. Someone felt that's a slap in the face of our ancestors. So, of course, me, in my thinking, I don't know if my brain is wired differently, because I usually end up on the other side of everyone else. And that seemed so. I understood what they were saying, because that's been a topic for many, many years. But what I feel is more important is that we have dishonored our ancestors. And so my thing was, we're always blaming someone. If a black man wants to be with a white woman, he loves her, he wants to marry her, that's his decision. I don't think that all black men just decide, I'm not going to marry a black woman because she's ratchet and she doesn't listen to what I say, she doesn't obey me. I don't feel that way. I feel as though people who get together are attracted to one another and they want to be together. I always looked up when the Bible says unequally yoked. I used to think that was meaning color, but it doesn't. It means being in two different religions. If somebody feels you can't have a peaceful home, or a home that's going to work together, if the husband believes in something else and the wife believes they're not going to be together in harmony. If God says he created man after themselves, so that means we're all the same. We're always trying to fight for equality, and we're all the same. It doesn't say in the Bible that, and if it does, if you find a scripture that it does say, just let me know that black people marry black people, white people marry white. I don't know where it says that. But then that brought up the topic I wanted to talk about today, and that's dishonoring our ancestors. I could imagine people do believe that our ancestors guide us through life. I'm not going to say anything about. I don't talk about anybody's beliefs. Or anything like that. But if that was to be true, or if that is true, do you think that they're pleased with how things are going now? These people had to endure the most um, painful, destructive, mind destructive, captivity, everything you can think of that happens as a crime separately. Here, they endured all together at once in their lives. And so some risked their lives to be free, some risked their lives to let help others to be free. So do you really think that they would be pleased with what's going on today? Do you think they who watched many of their people being unalived in vicious ways, that some of them fought to stay alive and held on as long as they could, do you think they would be pleased that someone can just come along of their same color, of their same nationality, and unalive them in 2 seconds because they gave them a look that they didn't like? Now, remind you, they used to do that back in the day. Black people could not look at white people in their eyes. They couldn't, if you ever were caught looking at them, and this is after slavery, so you could imagine how they treated them during that time, but this is after slavery. If you were caught looking, they called it eyeballing or whatever, looking at them directly in their eyes, to them that was disrespectful because you're lower than them. And so today in 2025, we're continuing that type of nonsense with our own people. You looked at me wrong, and so that warrants me to unalive you, or I felt that you were being disrespectful, and so we're all going to harm you. So it's almost like we have taken what they had created and we've carried it along and made it something of ours. But when we get together, we like to blame other races for things that we do. Now, of course, we know this whole story, and we know that what nationality, and there were others, but what was the main people who put our people into bondage and tortured them. But we are not the judge and the jury and the prosecutor and the hangman, and we're not. God is. So they will get their punishment. We don't have to sit and fester in our anger and in our pain and sorrow, thinking of ways to harm someone else that wasn't even born back then, or just as innocent as we were, because those people are going to have their judgment day and their sentence. We don't have to worry about that. We don't have to think about that. We don't have to be upset, and that's what I had to learn myself. I had to take myself out of the thinking of what happened and how they were treated, and because every time I would think about, read something or watch a movie, it would trigger something in me that I couldn't control. So I would lash out at other people that didn't know why I was lashing out, and really didn't have, didn't have anything to do with, with it. But that was the way that the anger inside of me was that great. So when you understand the whole, um, God's whole plan, you don't have to worry. You don't have to harbor that pain and that anger, because they're going to be punished. I had to stop for a while, stop reading stories or watching documentaries or movies or things like that. But I had to get over that because I love to read about history. I love to write stories, and like I said, I was planning on writing a book. I got hung up on that, but I don't think it's not possible that I continue that. But I think sometimes if you go back in history and understand what they went through, maybe it would make you have a different mind. That why are you continuing the pain and the suffering that they went through today on your own people? Why do you hate your own people so much? What did your people really do to you? And whatever they've done over the years, the history they were taught. If you could go back, we weren't at one another because we were all in the same predicament. We were treated unlawfully. We didn't have rights. Basically, they could do whatever they want with us and not be punished for it. And so we really had to stick together. I don't know if you've seen the movie Deacons for Defense. I love to watch that movie. True story where some deacons from a church decided to come together and watch over the neighborhood at night, and they would carry guns. They took a stance because people were afraid. They were still being tortured and beaten and all kinds of things. And so a group decided that enough was enough. They weren't going to let their people, just the kids, the women, just be terrorized. You can't. That goes to your psyche, your mind. If you're afraid every night, all day long, and you can't function normally. And so they came together and they would canvass, the neighborhood, mainly because they were all made to live in one area. And then they would take turns. Now, of course, they were tried because the whites were pretty angry that they were walking around with guns, because that would mean they're equal, and I'm sure they were afraid. So they did try them a few times, but when they stood their ground, there was nothing they could do, and that went on. I don't remember the I can't think of his name, who started it, but it helped the people that were coming down, like the night riders who were trying to get people to sign up for voting and stuff. It helped protect them, and just really to get things started. And that's when change started to come around, when they stopped being afraid and stood up. And so all their hard work, from them down to Martin Luther King, the marches, and from the people that were harmed and unalived, trying to fight for freedom and equality all the way up until now, because we're still losing lives on the same issue. It would make you think that our people wouldn't want to help further their cause, because I just imagine, it's just me, but I just imagine at roll call, I'm not saying who's roll call, the talk. We really don't. Today, we probably don't have, they'll take care of themselves. And it makes me, because I can't think of the answer. I mean, I know what the answer would be, is to come together, but how would that happen? I don't know if one person takes a step forward and does something and then it catches on. There's black men who have, and black women who own their own businesses, barber shops, beauty shops, or clothing, or whatever. And a guy here who he owns, I think, 2 barber shops here. And what he did was he worked with the school and opened up a class that young men or young women who wanted to learn that trade could be taught how to cut hair, and then get help, getting employed that way. And I thought that for him to stand up and do something like that was a great thing. He actually did 20 years in prison, and when he came out, that's when he opened up a barber shop that was pretty lucrative, and then he was able to open up another, and that's what how he decided to give back to his community, was to help young men learn a trade. And so if we had thousands, hundreds of thousands of those men, those women who felt that they wanted to better the community or give young people a chance, would do that, I think it would help the mindsets, because you have to get them when they're young, because that's where they're picked up, when they're young, especially if they don't have male figures in their lives, or that's where they look for their comfort. They come together and look out, usually one is the big brother or whatever, and looks out for the others, and so that gives them a sense of home, it gives them a sense of family. But if they're in the middle of deciding, because not everybody, I don't believe every young man has the mentality to do wrong. They're somehow pulled that way if they think there's no other way. So if you can get to them while they're in junior high, elementary, and talk to them and let them know what would you like to do when you get older. There's programs, and let's check on them when their grades. It's almost like a big brother, but I don't even think big brothers really even exist anymore. I don't know. I haven't heard. It might, but I'm not sure. Some programs start out and seem to be a very good idea, and then they kind of fall by the wayside, and that's due to funding, people, higher up, who aren't really looking into the program or seeing how the program works. They're just getting money to fund it, and then when things don't go right, or if they are losing money, or if money is being allocated somewhere else, then they just shut the program down, because of course we can't lose money. We can afford to lose kids, but we can't lose money. That's what the problem is in this world. Nobody cares about people. They care about their equity. They care about making more and more money to spend on frivolous, ridiculous things. I think a person who's really, really rich and has done, I've said this before, and has done everything. You've done everything. You've traveled everywhere. You have every car that you want. Just your mind starts to think of other things. Like you've done everything. So what's next? And that's where your mind triggers you into other, like, dark things. And to see how far you can go. And I'm not saying every rich person, because every rich person is not a bad person, but you have good and bad in every race, all over the world. It's not just one, race that the propaganda is. Why I say the other countries, because what they do is show what they want to show, just like they show us what they want us to see. And so people in other countries have a bad, they think bad about black people, because that's what they're shown and that's what they're told, before we even, before they even know you. You know how somebody says something about you before the person knows you, and so they treat you a certain way until they get to know you, and then find out that that's not how you really are. But what makes me upset is that sometimes we prove them right. Over in Dubai, they expect their women to remain humble and classy at all times. They're not, it's important that they are wholesome women, because that's how they get married. They want their women to be wholesome and religious and just respectful. But they call for American women or other women of whatever race, but it's mainly American women, black women, to fulfill their the other side of them, that they don't want them to be their wives, but they want to, and then they pay them this, so a lot of money to do crazy, weird, sick things that these women allow them to do for just a little bit of money. And it is disgusting. And I'm not going to say, I don't know what would, well, I guess money would be the reason, but I don't know how people get involved in these things, and you're just proving them what they feel about us, what they think, because you're, flying over to get degraded and for money. So who's really, what does our ancestors, how would our ancestors feel really today? What do you think they would be wanting to sit down and have break bread with us, or maybe they would want to, but they would want to understand or tell them how they feel. This is what we had to go through, and this is what you do to our legacy. You turn it around, and instead of it being the slave master's job to abuse, harm, unalive, torture, essay, you've made it your job. You're the head of it for your own people. When you should be protecting women from these things, you should be protecting young boys from being harmed. You should be protecting young little girls from being trafficked. You should protect your counterparts, your friends, your the other, just even if they're not your friends, they're your family. Even if you don't know them, you're their family just by the color of your skin. Makes you family. We, unfortunately, during that time, people were separated. Children were taken away from their parents. Parents had many kids, and they were all separated. So we really don't know. You really could be related, because they didn't give us a chance to even have a family, to bond with a family, to know your legacy, to know where you came from, to know if your grandfather at that time was owned shoed horses, and you could have a trade because he could have taught, didn't give give black people a chance to know who they were. They took them, gave them a name. Sometimes they let them give themselves a name, but not all the time. Gave them a name and a number, and then worked them until they passed away. Some didn't know how old they were. They didn't know their birthdays. Some were not allowed to marry the person that they actually fell in love with. They were put with someone else. Some women went through hours and hours of childbirth, and to have their babies snatched from them, and then for them to have to get up and go back to work, yearning for the baby that they carried and the child that they wanted to love and take care of. Some of them had to let their babies go by the wayside because they had to save their milk for the mistress's baby. Yeah, they had to be the wet nurse to the mistress's baby. What also makes me upset is you can put all these things out about black people so you can get people to follow you, to I can't even get the words out because give me a minute. So, the reason why they were coming up with these different things is so they can justify having them as slaves. We didn't have souls, we didn't know God, and we were just animals and all these different things. But you let them, that's the closest thing that a child can be, is have your mother's breast milk. So you would allow a soulless animal with evil and doesn't believe in God, so they could probably snap at any minute, and they're taking care of your baby and nurturing them. We were soulless and evil and all those things, but they were not soulless enough not to be intimate with. And that was not just the women, the men, children too. So the evils that came from that are still going on today. Like I said, I know there's people like me who I wasn't present. I wasn't present, but reading and watching, I felt pain. I felt hurt, and like they had no one there for them, and all the things that happened before help came, or all the things that were done and that are still being done. The only thing that's different is that they don't go as crazy as they did, because they can be held accountable. They can go to jail. They can be locked up. Because if that still was going on, it still would be the same. And some people don't care. We still have missing people, missing young men, and some others that have been unalived under suspicious circumstances, and nobody seems to know, or nobody seems to care. But once again, you have to go back to, they're going to be punished. They may have gotten away with whatever, and anybody who has done anything wrong and think they have gotten away with it, they might pass away and live their life, thinks their life was good, and they did what they did, and now they're gone. They're going to be awakened and be held accountable, because if you think that you've gotten away, you have not. You will not. But in the meantime, shame on all of us who do not care about our brother, our sister. Shame on us who think it's not our problem because we're over here and we're doing fine. Shame on us who have made, our way in life and doing great and living great, and we've turned our back and turned the other way. How do you know that your ancestors of the ancestors of the homeless man that you just walked over in your nice suit and tie and shoes wasn't the ancestor of the man who carried your great grandmother and her child to freedom because she couldn't go on? You don't know that, because you weren't allowed to know who your people were. But those things happened. They came together, and they helped one another. There was women that their husbands were sold off, so the other men had to help feed them or help them grow crops so they didn't go hungry, so their kids didn't go hungry. And that's how you're connected. You don't have to be related, and well, we're all related anyways, but if you want to look at it that way, you don't have to be blood to be related. You're related in spirit, you're related in um, kinship, that you were put in, that we were put in together. They didn't. Yeah, there was a few who had to survive, and so they did things in order to do that. I don't even blame them. Take a person who is snatched away from their whole family, from their country, into a place where they know nothing about and can't even speak the excuse me, the language, and that are beaten and starved, and tell them you'll get more food and we'll give you blankets, and say you let us know what they're talking about. If they're trying to plan something, how would you choose? I wouldn't blame them. I mean, how can you even blame them? I mean, there was some people whose minds were stronger and be like, and they were crafty, they were smart, they were intelligent, and they were coming up with ways to outsmart the people that they were dealing with. But other people, there's other, like today, everybody's not like everyone else. Excuse me, I get some water. So that is what prompted me to think about it, the little conversation we had about black men dating white women. And I truly believe that people don't marry or don't get involved unless you are a seedy person and you're doing it for whatever reasons. You know, the reasons that some men get women to work for them, that you're not going to marry somebody that you don't love or care about. We kind of separated to say there has to be a reason that this happens. It's not just because they love one another and they want to be together and they just happen to be different color. Their skin just happens to be a different color. It's not easy to be in well, it's easier today, but it's still not easy to be in a marriage of different race. People are still who they are and what they are. They can't hide it, they can't mask it, they can't pretend, they can't. It's in them. They have no way to hide it. It's just in them. So I make it a point. It's not making a point. I gave my life to God, and in turn, what He's asked me to do, He has blessed me to be able to avoid certain things and not to have to deal with other things. I don't care who marries whom. I actually have 2 white sister-in-laws who I love dearly. I know my brothers love their wives. They've been together several years. They have beautiful kids. I love my nieces and nephews. I don't look at them any different than my full black nieces and nephews. I don't worry about, all I care about is protecting the underdog, protecting the people who are less fortunate, because that's what God is calling for you to do. That's what He says throughout the Bible, that there's going to be people who are less fortunate than you. There are going to be people who can't make it here for whatever reasons. And so all he's saying is to look out for them. He's not saying to adopt them or to take a whole family and move them into your house. He's saying to look after. If you see that same man that's on the corner every day, bring him some food, a blanket, see if he has information on how to get shelter, or it only takes a little bit out of your day. It only takes, it's probably less than the time you take to get your nails done or your feet done or to get a haircut or a massage or to go get your coffee from Starbucks. It takes just a little bit more time than that, or less, because it takes a long time if you're going to go get your feet and nails done. And this is not to, no, yeah, I guess it is. It's to get you to think of other things. Our brains have been we have been brainwashed to believe that if you've made it, that you deserve it. That's because you worked hard, and that's why you're where you're at. And the people down below is because they're lazy, and that's where they need to be, because they should have tried to make it just like you. And if you look at it like you had the willpower to keep going when things were down, or you had a push, or you had something that pushed, kept you from falling, as far as maybe you had were good in sports or academics or whatever, and you got to go to college, and maybe this person's parents could not afford college, and so they missed their opportunity, and life just lifed, and they couldn't hang on. But for the grace of God go I. You could be that person that you walk over on the sidewalk. You could be that person who begs for food or whatever. You're not any special. God doesn't see you that way. We're too busy trying to impress people here on earth that don't even, they don't care. You'll come around the corner in your new car, and people will say, "Oh, that's whatever the new saying is today," because I'm sure it wasn't the saying yesterday. And then you drive off, and they talk about you like a dog. So sometimes I just like to have people think, just a thinking session, just a thinking what type of person that you think you are. Do you care about other people's lives? Do you care what other people are going through? Or are you just trying to blind yourself from other situations and just so you can take care of you and yours? Or sometimes just you. Are you that type of person that you don't even care about yours? You just care about taking care of you. And I know that there are plenty of people who are caring. Anybody who takes the time to listen to my uploads have to be a caring person. I don't get on here and gossip and tell you who's the latest, who's dating who, and who got caught somewhere, and yet you still come here and you listen and you leave me comments. So I do know that you are caring people. And I appreciate all of you who do listen. But not only do I want you to listen, I want you to understand that we're in the last days. We don't know the hour, we don't know the day, the time, the month. We just don't know. He's given us the signs to tell us that he is coming soon. And so if you haven't gotten ready, he woke you up this morning, and so you still have time. But that doesn't mean 30 minutes from now that you'll have time. You have to make a decision, and you have to just he doesn't even say, make today, right now, claim me as your Savior, and stop everything that you're doing. Do not do. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, call on him and he'll do the rest. That's all he's asking. Help him help you. He can't help you if you don't ask, because he doesn't force you. So I pray for everyone, whatever's going on in your life. I hope that God can see you through. I hope that the people that feel alone, that someone would come and knock on their door and give them a blessing. I hope people that are being abused, that God will take them from that, will take their abuser, bind their hands, remove them from that person's life. Children, I hope Jesus will just watch over them and keep them safe. It seems like the parents don't understand that you have to keep your eye on your child every single minute. You have to know what time, when they're at school, what time they're going to leave, especially our little baby kids, our little children. You have to look out for them. Do not let them walk anywhere by themselves. There shouldn't be any announcements. The news shouldn't come on and say a missing child, because you should basically have your child handcuffed to your side. We have seen it over time and time again. These kids, you let them walk to the store and they don't come back. And then 10 years from now, you'll find out what happened. Watch over your kids. Help somebody watch over their kids. That's what we used to do. Your friend's working late and she gotta, you pick up her kids right along with yours, and you feed them like you feed yours until she comes home. It's not too late to heal. It's not too late to heal, and it's not too late to get our community together. It just takes word of mouth to spread the word, and care for caring people to take a stand. And with God, you can get through anything. You can do anything through God. Just hold on to God. But that's all I have to say. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and until next time.